In this debt ceiling fight, congressional Republicans want our kids with disabilities to cover the U.S. debt that will pay for the tax cuts for their ultra wealthy friends. I am not even kidding. They want the disabled to burden to to bear the burden of these tax cuts. Brief history, of course, Republicans under Trump passed sweeping tax cuts for people in the upper 20% of the income bracket. It was Trump's big signature legislation of his first term. They measure also slashed corporate tax rates by 40%. Of course, tax revenues fell by 31% in the first year after the cut was passed. They have continued to decline since then, and no surprise, the deficit has exploded. And now the Republicans are mad at Democrats and everybody else for this deficit, and they are insisting that the disabled and poor and elderly pay for it. Take cuts out of their programs in order to pay for it, as opposed to cuts from some other programs like defense. And they're holding the debt ceiling hostage unless we agree to burden the weakest among us. Now, you can't be the party of Christian values, of the values of Christ, if you are letting the least of us starve so that you can buy another island. You can be the party of Antichrist, because that seems pretty anti-Christ, if you ask me. I think we should call it out as such, and I think we should start using this language. Republicans, party of the Antichrist. Has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? I think that's called the truth. Now, stick with me here on this. I have a serious point to make. Remember last week I did that piece? If you didn't, I'm on Political Voices Network. If you didn't see it, it is about a MAGA preacher who was out there now telling everyone that mermaids are to be feared and that they're on Starbucks cups and poise boxes and they're just some sort of dog whistling for the evil and corroding force that is overtaking our nation. And I pointed out that when people are in full flight from reality, like she is, although I do agree with her that there is an evil and corroding force overtaking our nation, but she thinks it's the people who want to feed those in poverty with the largesse that our country produces. And I don't think that. Anyway, I pointed out she's in full flight from reality. My work as a clinical therapist, we learn that when people are in what is considered a psychotic state, full flight from reality, detached from reality, as many who in our nation who have been propagandized out of their wits. Anyway, we have to start speaking to them in their own terms, and they use terms like Antichrist. The internet is rife with people tracking down and following signs of end times, be it earthquake activity, weather that they think is coming from Jesus instead of from what we've done ourselves to destroy the planet. Different things in our political life and social life, they are looking for signs of what they believe is the coming Antichrist. Well, there's a lot of things that are going on that are, in fact, Antichrist. So let's just speak in their language, shall we? Embrace the term, point out when they are following and supporting things that are Antichrist. Shouldn't be too hard. I'm Julianna Forlano. You're listening to the Political Voices Network. Thanks for watching.
Republicans say they won't cut Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid. But can honest, hard-working middle-class Americans really believe what these politicians say? Republicans said they wouldn't overturn Roe v. Wade. Here's what Supreme Court Justices Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Coney Barrett said during their Senate confirmation hearings.
Roe v. Wade, it is a precedent of the United States Supreme Court. A good judge will consider it as precedent of the United States Supreme Court.
Roe v. Wade, it's settled as a precedent of the Supreme Court.
Roe is not a super precedent, but that doesn't mean that Roe should be overruled.
Well, we saw how that turned out. They played us for fools. Tell your elected officials to keep their hands off of our Social Security and healthcare benefits. Fool me once. Let Majority Rule was responsible for this message. LetMajorityRule.org is a project of the Marvin Lucas Super PAC, which is responsible for and paid for this ad and is not affiliated with or authorized by any political campaign or candidate or candidates committee.